Hey everybody, Kendra here. So I wanted to make a free video about genograms. So this is really important because you hear the word intergenerational trauma an awful lot, but you don't really know what it means. What it means, let's break it down. Intergenerational, meaning generational. It's down the generation, okay? And it's inside of your family line, your family tree, however you want to think of it or look at it, that patterns start to exist. Now, people don't like the term trauma. They're like, my family doesn't have trauma. Okay. Think of it as instead of trauma, nervous system dysregulation and regulation. Our body feels safe, so we're regulated, and our body feels unsafe, so it gets dysregulated. So, if that continual unsafety happens in your family lineage, then that kind of starts to create an imprint. And I also like to call it a cycle or a pattern. And what happens is that gets imprinted inside of your body, your cells, your DNA. Um, and it then has like a cellular memory. Okay. And as it gets passed down, a lot of these things get brushed under the rug. They get swept under the rug because they're very painful and or it was unsafe to discuss it or talk about it or bring it up. I would like to think that now we're in a day and age where we can heal from a lot of these things that have happened in the past. And I'll go more into that in a different video. But anyway, so it might be safer for you to be able to do a genogram now. I do want to say that if it's unsafe for you, like you don't have a lot of autonomy, you're in an abusive relationship, or you're in an abusive household, emotional, mental, physical, um, I would suggest not doing this and going and asking a lot of questions to your family. Maybe doing this with a trained professional counselor, which I am, but we're not in a session together. So, um, there's not that responsibility there on my part. This is kind of you doing it. And, or you can do this genogram kind of in a way, even if you're not in an unsafe environment, you can do it in a way that is less confrontational or face to face with people in your family, and maybe look up stuff online or things like that, like historically. You could look through old papers and diaries and photos and things like that of your family. Um, so these are really important because when it comes to patterns that help keep us safe, they don't always help keep us safe. So let's say that there was an incestuous grandpa who sexually assaulted his own children, and the children knew this wasn't right. It was an unsafe environment, but they couldn't do anything about it. So there's a dysregulation in the nervous system, and there's a need to create safety somehow, right? Maybe it's disassociation, maybe it's fight, maybe it's flight, maybe it's freeze, maybe it's fawn, maybe it's um, all of these things, right? Just like a conglomeration of these things every now and then, right? So that will get passed down. And then that means that someone like me, let's say it's my grandparents, that happened to my great grandparents, then that kind of gets passed down to me, where there's a cycle and a pattern of people choosing people who are hurting them and not seeing that it's a cycle and pattern that needs to be completed And there needs to be a sense of safety. There needs to be a sense of completion, meaning I'm going to break that cycle. I'm aware that the women in my family are picking men who are abusive in this way. And I am going to break that cycle and not do it. But I can't break a cycle unless I'm aware of it. Unless I'm aware that that happened, then I can't do anything about it. Okay. These kinds of things make families very upset and annoyed or angry or whatever, but it's your healing journey. And anyway, so these kinds of cellular patterns are in our body. What we want to do in the genogram is see the patterning and bring awareness to it, especially if we don't have a clear picture of what that is. We can kind of notice that some things are off in our families. We can notice some things are off in our own patterning in our life, like self-sabotage, or why do I always pick this person? My picker is broken. Or why does my family have all of these certain diseases? Because disease can come from repressed trauma, suppressed trauma, or nervous system dysregulation or safety. And so whenever we see it, we can do something about it. So it helps us to come to terms with our past hurt, the past harm, and then really just move forward in our lives because we've shined some light on it. Okay, so I know I was talking about a white woman in America having this happen in her family, but genograms are really useful for anybody, really, especially people who are in war-torn areas or families were in war-torn areas, survivors of the Holocaust, like their family lineage, um, anyone who has really been seen like this very demoralization of who they are, their ethnicity, and their culture. So genograms can help us to see it and to heal from it. And it can also help us connect to people in our family that we didn't know we could have a connection with, or we didn't know even existed. Even if we don't want to connect with them and like be friends with them, it's just good to know, like, oh yeah, I have these uncles, or I have these aunts, or this happened to that person, and I read about that. Um, so what I was talking about earlier was epigenetics. So what really happens is whenever our cells remember, you can look up something called epigenetics. Okay. There's a good book by Mark Weiland called It Didn't Start With You. What I was talking about completing the cycle, that's in another book called The Body Keeps the Score. And I'll link those below. But you can really learn about what our bodies are telling us by the patterns we're recreating in our life or that we're seeing recreated in our family's life. And then maybe taking a step back, looking at the genogram and being like, I see these things. Let me just become aware of it. Maybe see a counselor, maybe just do like other healing modalities, that kind of thing to work through it. Okay. So we will get started with a genogram in the next video. And if it gets to be too much, whenever you're doing a genogram, again, get with somebody who can help you, like a mentor or a licensed professional or a healing professional that can help you work with your somatics in your body. And I do have videos coming out soon that they are paid for, but they're yours to keep. And they'll be on my website. And I'll be teaching some breathing practices and different ways to regulate the nervous system, as well as how to douse and beginner's yoga. So you can go to that yoga class feeling really confident, and other ways to really master your health and wellness. Because after all, that's who is the one who is taking care of it, right? It's you. It's not me. So look for these other videos, and I look forward to working with you and hopefully hearing how your journey is going. Okay. Bye.